For those of you who have just joined us, we are here at the Grand Old McCarthy Hall for the National Amateur Boxing Finals, where newcomer Apollo Creed has come from nowhere to dominate the competition. His semi-final bout ending with an incredible knockout in the second round.
It certainly surprised me, but Creed's been building momentum all the way through the championship. Who knows how far he can go?
Tonight's final match sees him up against Tony Duke, a veteran fighter with exceptional boxing skills. But can the weight of experience hold its own against the raw talent of the younger fighter?
In 1968, 26-year-old Apollo Creed defeated Tony Duke Evers in a battle of age and youth. Creed requested Duke become his trainer since the latter was retiring anyway. Duke accepted. Apollo turned pro and entered the heavyweight division at the height of the tumultuous chaos that was the heavyweight championship's schism in the aftermath of Muhammad Ali's exile. Still, his fight with Duke was considered his first professional bout. Creed, already famous from his days as an amateur, is thrust into the deep waters with the purpose of determining if he's the real deal. He isn't fast-tracked to the main event, but he wastes little time taking on all comers. The following is the legacy of the greatest heavyweight champion there ever was in his conquest of the marquee division of boxing. This is how Apollo Creed cleaned out the heavyweight division during its golden age. In 1968, the heavyweight title scene was narrowed down to Jimmy Ellis and Joe Frazier in Muhammad Ali's absence. Apollo starts his journey by hammering out 4 knockouts. Not a single one made it past the 4th round. Creed's usage of speed, dancing, and overall boxing talent reminds fans of Muhammad Ali, but with the addition of Creed's noticeable knockout power. The 5-0 Creed earns his first big step up against contender Buster Mathis, who is rebounding from losing out on the NYSEC title against Joe Frazier. Apollo makes even easier work of Mathis than Frazier did, using his combination of speed and power to drop Buster for the count. This concludes 1968 for the rookie with a record of 6-0. Now Apollo's caught the eye of Joe Frazier in the 2-eye fight for the NYSEC title. Creed rails off 5 more stoppage wins leading up to the fight, and Frazier unfortunately suffers an injury in training. So the bout is rescheduled for the next year, and Creed fails to secure a bout with Jimmy Ellis, bringing his record to 11-0 to close the 60s. The last bout was a knockout of Jerry Quarry. In 1970, the 1968 Olympic gold medalist George Foreman winds up as a cherry pick gone wrong for WBA champion Jimmy Ellis. Foreman secures the title. Joe Frazier re-aggravates his eye injury and is ordered to vacate the NYSEC title, which has been absorbed into the WBC title. Creed, despite being the #1 contender, is passed over in favor of the returning Muhammad Ali, facing off against Joe Frazier for a planned 1971 superfight attraction. Ali was never stripped of the WBC title, nor did he lose it in the ring. Frazier's eye injury cost him the NYSEC title. Both men have a legit claim to the title. Bad luck for the Prince of Punch. Creed gains 5 more stoppage wins, one of which is over George Chuvalo. Even the Dancing Destroyer, the Master of Disaster, can't knock Chuvalo off his feet. Creed is unable to secure a fight with George Foreman for the WBA title due to the organization's pettiness that Apollo sought the WBC title. To them, this was a forfeit of his contendership. Creed ends 1970 still without a title shot, but with a record of 16-0. None of his fights going the distance. 1971 opens with Joe Frazier winning the fight of the century against Ali, making him the WBC champion. Frazier takes the rest of the year off to recover from the beating. George Foreman demolishes his WBA opposition, still unable to fight Apollo Creed at the threat of being stripped. Creed, while going on another 5-fight tear through the division, goes on a marketing tirade to force his shot for a title. Creed emerges as a rival to Muhammad Ali in the ability to sell a fight. The two butt heads as they trade invading one another's fights and training camps, building interest for a potential matchup. Remember, Ali is on the comeback trail. Creed and Ali take their jabs at Frazier and Foreman, tug-of-warring over who will get to fight either man first. "I want Joe Frazier," says Ali, and Creed retorts, "Be a thinker, not a stinker, Ali. You had Joe Frazier, and now Smoking Joe needs Apollo Creed." Ali hits Apollo with a "you is crazy." Creed ends 1971 by becoming the only man to ever stop Ringo Oscar Bonavena. 6 fights on the year. His record is now 22-0, all by stoppage. 1972 opens with George Foreman unifying the title against Joe Frazier. It's a shocking beatdown that echoes Sonny Liston and Floyd Patterson. The Sunshine Showdown was all George Foreman. Apollo and Ali signed to fight an eliminator bout to determine Foreman's challenger, but Ali loses his tune-up against Ken Norton. Creed knocks Norton out in their bout mid-year, heading into his overdue shot at the title. By now, Creed's promotion and conquests have earned him back into the good graces of the WBA. That and the fall of Muhammad Ali. He is the universal #1 contender at 23-0, all by stoppage victory. Apollo Creed enters the Foreman fight for the undisputed title as the underdog for the first time in his career. Foreman, while champion, has obliterated his opposition. Joe Frazier, Foreman's greatest conquest, is believed to be capable of defeating Creed in the same manner that he did Ali. Creed shocks all by bewildering Foreman with his speed and wearing him down for a 12th round knockout. It is the greatest challenge of the Count of Monte Cristo's career so far, but only because George was so resilient. Creed never was in any trouble. Notable is that Duke insisted Apollo take the points win, but Apollo insisted George had to fall and went with his pride. The Prince of Punch has graduated into the King of Sting with this one. So that's how Apollo Creed became heavyweight champ. Let's keep going up to the events of the first Rocky film. So 24-0 and undisputed, all before the final bell. This guy may be the greatest, and Muhammad Ali is an open hater of the man who has stolen his thunder. 1973 sees Apollo begin a historic run. He defends the title 7 times. He knocks out Ernie Shavers along with a plethora of challengers native to the Rocky universe like Floyd McCallum and Frankie Dixon. This brings him up to 31-0 all by stoppage and 7 title defenses. Muhammad Ali avenges the Ken Norton loss and continues plowing through contenders. He signs to fight Joe Frazier to start 1974. George Foreman loses his campaign for a rematch and protests by not fighting. It only leads to him losing further rank. 1974 plays out like reality, with Muhammad Ali beating Joe Frazier to start the year. George Foreman follows this by destroying Ken Norton. Ali and Foreman meet in the Rumble in the Jungle to determine Apollo Creed's #1 contender, and Ali does the impossible as he did in reality. If you're wondering why this fight still happens, it's because the third Creed film confirmed its existence. Foreman exiles himself in shame and rage. Meanwhile, Apollo Creed defends his title 8 times, 2 of which are knockouts of Ron Lyle and Jimmy Young. He's 39-0 now, all by stoppage, with 15 title defenses. 1975 sees the mirrors finally get it on as Apollo Creed signs to defend his title against Muhammad Ali in a bout billed as the one and only Apollo makes 6 defenses of his title before facing Ali. In the 14th round of their fight, Apollo stops Ali on his feet. Even Frazier couldn't stop Ali. Apollo predicted that he would zip Ali's mouth shut once and for all, and by knockout. That's close enough, but Apollo punched himself out and was noticeably gassed when the fight was called off, collapsing in his corner. The victory seals the deal for most that Apollo Creed is the one and only, granting him his final nickname. He is the greatest, though some wonder how it would have gone if this were a 60s Ali pre-exile. Some claim Creed would have always beaten Ali, citing he has all of Ali's attributes along with superior power. The only man Apollo hasn't fought at this point is Joe Frazier. Frazier has been working his way back up the card since losing to Ali, and Apollo says that they will get it on in 1976 in a bicentennial affair. Frazier blows the affair by failing a sight test due to him being blind in one eye, and is replaced by #1 contender Mac Lee Green. If you recall, Green was injured in training, and that led to the events of Rocky, in which Rocky Balboa was given the opportunity of a lifetime to face the best to ever do it in Apollo Creed. Apollo entered that fight with Rocky with a record of 46-0, all by stoppage. Frazier meets him in the ring before the fight begins and says how Apollo's been ducking him long now. With our history here, this has to be retroactive sarcasm and a jab at the champ. Rocky's performance against Creed, in which he became the first man to take him the distance, fuels the fire that Joe Frazier himself would beat Creed. Rocky's style resembles Frazier's, though not exactly. This is a part of the hate mail that we see Apollo receive in Rocky 2. The fight with Smokin' Joe, unfortunately, never comes to be, as Apollo puts his all into preparing for a Thanksgiving Day rematch with Balboa. With Joe Frazier present again, Creed is upset by Balboa and retires afterward at 47-1, with 44 knockout wins and 1 knockout loss. Only one of his fights went the distance, and it was a split decision win. 23 title defenses, and so close to breaking Rocky Marciano's 49-0 record. Rocky outlasted Apollo, who beat himself by giving into the same pride he gave into against Foreman and Ali. Rocky just had to fall like Foreman did, and it had to be a knockout win even if he exhausted his tank like against Ali. Finally caught up to him, as pride does indeed cometh before a great fall. Joe Frazier retires too after being thrashed by George Foreman again. And so ends the professional tale of Apollo Creed. But I'm thinking a part 2 is in order here, as we need to examine Rocky's 10 title defenses on his road to Clubber Lang in Rocky 3. That and the budding brotherhood that would develop between Rocky and Apollo, as the latter aids the former in getting back the eye of the tiger. Rest in peace, Carl Weathers. Thank you for this legacy, sir.